What's going on, guys? It's Clark Taylor from Wrestling Republic here. We're back with another edition of the daily broadcast. It's Thursday, January 19th. Somehow it's already been 19 days past the new year. It's the late afternoon out here on the West Coast. I know where my good friend Anthony is right now. It's early evening, I would call it, in
6:30.
Philly. How are you doing, my friend?
Been doing better in the past couple of days. Well, still on the mend, but getting there.
Definitely. I know recovering from a little illness, so we've definitely got a team player here hanging hanging with us for sure.
Yeah.
And stoked to be back. We've got a bunch of good topics on tap. Let's start with Dynamite last night. You and I both watched it. I thought it was a solid show. There were some shenanigans, in the opener with Cassidy and in that title defense, but you and I are both Danhausen fans, so I enjoyed it personally. But what were your thoughts on that one?
I mean, I'm a Danhausen mark, so very much. I enjoy his stuff. As a whole, I'm not a big Orange Cassidy guy. You and I had that conversation. It was a shenanigan match. It just, I really wasn't crazy about it, but it wasn't the worst. It wasn't the worst stuff I've seen.
Definitely. And it's funny because I totally understand where you're coming from on Cassidy, but I am actually a Cassidy fan myself. I weirdly just find it's so entertaining to me, and the commitment to the character I enjoy, but I also can totally relate to why.
I mean, my only issue with Orange is, he's not necessarily a comedy character, but they're trying to treat him as serious, and it's the little fake shin kicks takes it out of any match that he's in for me. And I mean, I don't think he did it last night, but just in general, it takes me out of a match if it's trying to be competitive, quote unquote. So
I totally understand where you're coming from, but I can't lie myself. The first time I saw it, I couldn't stand it. The second time I saw it, when I heard the sweet shin music call, I just cracked. I just laughed. It was.
I immediately think dude love when I hear that, but yeah.
Yeah, it was too funny. And yes, dude, the dudester, delivered some sweet shin action of his own back in the day. And we'll get into things like the dudester because we're going to get into one of our later topics is we're going to do some Raw throwback moments because it is a Throwback Thursday here on the daily broadcast. But besides just the Cassidy title defense, Darby also defended and retained his TNT title. I thought that was a real solid match. And Kushida, obviously with the completely different ring gear than we saw him in WWE, it was a unique look, but the hoverboard spot I thought was incredible. And I really thought this was a worthy main event and a really good match.
Yeah, it really was. It really was a great match to close out the show. Just in general, I know it was a quasi Jay Briscoe tribute show, even though it was unofficially kind of a weird scenario with the whole them not being allowed to technically call it that. But that's neither here nor there with
yeah.
But yeah.
No, and for sure. And we did yesterday's show was dedicated to Jay Briscoe and his family, and we still I mean, it's such a tragic situation. And with everything, like, our thoughts and prayers for the whole family. Like, it's just,
yeah, I mean, that's one of the things, I know AEW had to tape a show after last night because Turner allegedly wouldn't allow them to do it on Dynamite. You and I've had this conversation off air.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I don't think it's a great card for a show. If, in my opinion, what I think they should have done was you could have done a best of Jay Briscoe, done your 10-bell salute, released it online, and then at Supercard, make that a true Jay Briscoe tribute show. And by that point, if Mark wanted to be involved, If he wanted to be involved, he could. I think that would have been a better idea than the card that they put together. I mean, honestly, does anybody really want to see Eddie Kingston and QT Marshall in a match? Like, it's not. It's a tribute show. That doesn't seem like a match that. And the other thing is, a lot of the people on that card, I don't really know if they've really worked with Jay. And there's a lot of people on AEW's roster that worked with Jay for years. Cole Cabana's under contract, Samoa Joe, Jay Lethal. All these people are under contract. So
Matt Hardy.
Matt's another one. I mean, there's a lot of people that worked with him. And I think it would have made more sense to do it in a more grand way at Supercard as opposed to this almost a rush job. Like the Bucks weren't even on the show because they were on Dynamite. Like the Bucks should have been on that. You know, the Bucks and the Briscoes, legendary rivalry. So I don't want to say it's disrespectful, but to me, the card's not what I would envision a true Briscoe tribute show should be.
And I hear where you're coming from, and it's one of those things that's so complicated. And
it is. Oh, absolutely. It's not an enviable position.
And also, it's not something even that's comparable, but like what they were able to do with the Brody Lee show was so amazing. I also wanted to mention, like, it's almost impossible to live up to that because of
that was
scenarios.
That was one of the best tribute shows I've seen.
I think of all time. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I think you needed something like that or even close to that for Jay. Like, I get it. You know, he said some things. He apologized for them profusely. Yeah. There's other people on that roster that have said and done things worse, and they're on Turner every week. So you kind of wonder of going,
yeah.
Really?
Well, and the slap show did right. So
yes,
you know, we saw all that. Moving along, let's you know, for the rest of Dynamite, I did think one of the most interesting things in the women's division was Toni Storm and Saraya both turning heel at once. Wanted to get your thoughts on that one. Personally, by the way, I thought it was the move, but I wouldn't have necessarily said that, I think, a month ago. So that's where I think that they were really playing to what it turned out to be, and they had different plans.
I mean, I don't know if it was well thought out or if it was kind of a rush panic. Let's do something to create a buzz. I don't know. Like, I don't know where they're going with it as a whole.
Definitely. I think it's a change of pace. And I think the crowd reactions to Dr. Britt Baker have been so clear that's really, really hard to book her as a heel. As good as her heel work is, I believe in it, but I do also think that a little bit there's the uniqueness of the AEW audience appreciating great heel work, and I don't mean that I don't think that's always positive, right? It can hurt MJF at times, it can hurt, but the way the fan base is, really, really good heel work does seem to get cheers, right? And
it's a smart audience. Yeah. So like it's you know, very much they'll cheer the heels, they'll boo the it's favoritism, like, really, but it's not. Sure. It's a unique type of audience. It's an indie smart audience is what it is.
Definitely. I think that was a really, really good way to sum that up too. And so we'll leave it there on Dynamite, and let's move along into the second topic, which I think you and I are both excited for. I mean, it's Throwback Thursday, and we're the old guys, longtime fans. We got this in the pocket pretty easy. We're just going to go over some of our all-time favorite Raw moments. Yeah. There's no like rankings here or politics involved. We're just going to flip out some of the sweetest Raw moments that we've seen in our lifetime, break them down, talk about them, have fun with it. And not only that, it's the perfect time because we've got the big anniversary coming up on Monday. Yeah. So let's go over some of the game tape. Give me a moment. that's one of your faves, Anthony.
Okay, this is one of those moments that you and I can appreciate because we were fans at the time, and it's unfortunate that like fans now that weren't around then really won't get the gravity of it. When the last Nitro, they did the simulcast where Vince was announcing that he bought WCW, and Shane came out and said, "No, the name on the contract says McMahon, but it doesn't say Vince McMahon; it says Shane McMahon." Having that moment literally on TNN at the time, which Raw was on the brief period when it wasn't on USA,
Was
and
it
on
even
TNT,
was it not Spike?
I
It
don't know.
may have been
I don't
Spike.
know if it became Spike at that point yet. I think
It
it
was
was.
still
I think it was
TNN.
still TNN. I think. I think it was still. Either way, it was that network.
Yes. No
Um,
worries. Yeah.
and it was on TNT at the same time, which is really insane because they're two rival networks, not owned by the same people at all, and it's being simulcast. It'll probably never happen again in wrestling. I can't imagine it happening again. Especially considering neither WWE nor AEW are on at the same time, regardless. So I don't see it happening. But that was one of those moments, and obviously the payoff of we're gonna get WCW versus WWF matchups. Obviously, it didn't pan out the way that we fan booked it. But I mean, a lot of that was not necessarily WWF's fault because a lot of the big name WCW guys were under weirdly Turner contracts and not WCW contracts, so they were non-transferable, which I still don't understand how the hell that worked
Yeah.
to this day. But it was one of those. It was such an iconic Raw moment.
It really was. And yeah, that's one of those ones where you're like almost no matter which network you watched it on, you were just stunned.
If
Even
anything, we watched it on both. We taped
yeah,
it and watched it.
exactly. Even if you knew it was coming though, it was one of those things that was like, wait a minute. Like Vince McMahon is on WCW. Like I remember Bischoff, not to take it away from Raw moments, right? But I remember Bischoff on the motorcycle, like, come fight me, Vince, and all of that. And we saw Vince's face on Nitro. It was,
There was a great shot. It was like a pull away shot, and because they were in Panama Beach, Florida, like Vince's face was like projected on a building because that's where like this one of the screens were, and you literally saw Vince like on a building and you see Nitro. It was such a wild shot during that broadcast.
yeah. And like even the shot of the Raw Jumbotron showing
Yes,
Nitro,
yes,
to your
and
point
Shane
too,
coming out.
it's outstanding. One of the most underrated moments of all time. And I love that one. It's a
Yes,
really, really good one. And so I was going to go with my moment next, if that's cool. One of them, this is a funny one. Orton in Anaheim, as I always refer to it as, I was there as a kid. It's the week after, actually, that Evolution turned on him. But
after SummerSlam.
I
Yeah.
loved the moment because he had the World Heavyweight title and he basically spit in Triple H's face and then hit him with the belt and exited through the crowd. And it was a huge pop and such a cool moment. And that babyface run didn't last long, basically through New Year's Revolution and his booking at the Elimination Chamber,
Yeah.
where Triple H retained. But it was as much as the memory of the thumbs up, thumb down spot was great. That's the actual moment that I remember, which was it was only a week later, and it's one of my favorites.
That's when he had the "Burn in My Light" music, right?
It
Which,
is.
which everyone loved at the time.
Yes, and ironically, he didn't like,
Yeah, which is kind of
which
funny.
is ironic.
Yes.
I don't think he likes voices either. He said,
Yeah.
"Let's go figure. They're both iconic." I mean, hey,
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, Maven hated his theme song too. He's another one that hated it.
I think it's
And
interesting. There's
everyone
a
loved,
lot
like,
of
it's awful. Yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of people that really don't like their theme music for
yeah.
sure. Um, but other moments raw wise historically, do you have one in your pocket that you're ready for?
I mean, there were so many Austin ones, but I think the one that, like, is obviously the highest rated Raw segment to this day is the "This Is Your Life" with Rock and Mankind, which they went over time. People were furious until they saw the ratings. Wasn't it like 8 million? Wasn't it like 8? Like,
It
what
was huge,
it
massive,
was some insane number
massive.
that they'll never touch again.
Yeah, never. Not
Um,
not
you
even
know,
sniff.
I mean, there were moments, it wasn't in that segment, but, Rock dropped an F-bomb during one of the
Oh,
segments.
yeah, I did.
Silver spoon mother. Um, and I remember as watching it going, "Wait, did he just say what I think he said?" 'Cause they didn't bleep it. I don't believe they
That's
did.
right. I don't think
I
they
don't think
did
they did.
live. Not live, I don't think they did.
No, because I don't even think they were prepared for that.
No,
They're DX invading Nitro was another one of those iconic moments on the tank.
for sure. For sure. I mean, that one is amazing too. And it's so funny because it's such a short segment, but it's lived for so long. Like, if you really think about it, that wasn't, I guess it was multiple segments technically,
Yeah.
but if you really think about it, the payoff is like just them banging on a steel door.
Well, and the best part is because Road Dogg said he kept saying, "Let's go down the ramp first," and they wouldn't go down the ramp first, because they went down there, and then apparently Kevin Nash has talked about it. Him and Scott Hall were on the other side of the door trying to get the guy to open the door, and to this day, Bischoff went, "If I knew that was going on, I would have told them let them in," you know, because who's gonna watch Raw if that's going on Nitro?
Yeah,
It's the truth.
it is so true.
That would have been the first simulcast.
It would have been
Technically,
nuts. That would have
technically.
been insanity.
Well, that's the whole thing. Like it's one of those, what if um would have went down, but
When I mean, you think about that one too, and then I mean, even poor Tony Schiavone. I love Tony Schiavone myself, but man, did he mess that one up
the butts in seats. Well, that
on the
allegedly, I
butts
think.
and seats, and then Foley winning the title. That's one of my favorite moments personally in Raw history. Like,
Oh,
it's just I love Mick Foley, and it was awesome. The
I
running around the ring, it was great.
and again, that was pre-taped. That's why Shivani
Yep.
said well, Bischoff, I think, told him to say it.
Yeah.
I think that's the story that goes around. Bischoff told him to say it. But the funny part was that, like, the ratings switch, as Foley talks about multiple times. When Shivani said that, people literally switched over from Nitro to watch Foley win the title because they went, "Oh wait, Foley's winning the belt. Oh, we got to see that." And then they flipped back over to Nitro when it was done to watch whatever main event I think Nitro was offering at the time. It absolutely was. Foley deserved that. I mean, it was such an awesome moment as a fan watching that.
It's one of my favorites, and I'm a huge Mick Foley fan
Yeah,
myself. Like, and I think his impact on Raw is almost underrated too. Except it's funny, and not to change the subject to SmackDown, but like, people forget as much as the build to that 2000 Rumble match where he came back as Cactus Jack happened on Raw. It was
yeah,
actually SmackDown where he took off the bloody button down
yes.
and actually returned as Cactus. And like, that's one that that's one of my favorite moments in wrestling history. I loved that one.
It,
I
it
just
it was such a special time, though. Just
Yeah.
as a fan, like it was must see TV, and it was every week. We haven't had anything like that in wrestling since. In all fairness, regardless of the companies, you know, it was such a special time to be a fan. It really was.
No doubt. And so, okay, I've actually got a new question here too that I don't think I even ran by you before, but I just thought of
What
it,
else
and I
is new?
think it's really good. I think it's really good. I think you're gonna like this one.
Okay.
Instead of just talking about trucks, I think we decide between the two of us. Milk truck, beer truck.
Oh, which one was better?
Your call. Yeah.
Oh, the beer
You
truck. The beer truck's the original.
I think so too.
And
But
just the visual of Austin on top of that thing.
absolutely. The
And
cartons
again,
though of
and
milk.
again, that was the go home Raw
Yes,
before WrestleMania 15 in Philly
that's
when he was facing The
right.
Rock for the first time.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I'm with you on the beer truck thing. That wasn't as good a debate as I'd hoped it would be. There was not even a debate anyway. We weren't really trying to debate, but it wasn't like we didn't even have to discuss it. We're
Wasn't
both
rehearsed.
pro beer truck, easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say about that. But we did talk about this before the show.
Yes.
The Zamboni might take
That
the cake and steal the show.
I don't know why. Just the visual of Austin running across the top of that thing and diving off onto Vince, because Vince was surrounded by guards and he literally dove over all of them and went and beeline beating Vince down. Also, when he was driving that Zamboni, I remember him taking out the lights in the back and they were getting stuck under the Zamboni as he was
Oh,
coming out, all
yes.
the wires and everything. Yeah.
That's right.
Yes. It's
I mean,
yeah.
honestly, too, I just kind of forgot about we didn't even think about when he crushes the Corvette with the cement.
My favorite
Oh,
part of that is when the glass shatters.
yes.
When it pops and that is iconic.
100%.
Another one would be when Austin came down in the pickup truck and just decimated the Nation of Domination. He
Yes.
threw D'Lo through the windshield.
Oh, wait, it wasn't even a pickup truck. I thought it was a monster truck, wasn't it? Didn't it have didn't he do, where was the monster truck with somebody else? The
He
Nation one,
definitely did that. He did the monster truck, I know, with Rock, but I think that
was it just like a regular
I think that
lifted
was
truck?
corporate Rock. I think
Either
it
way.
was. I think it was his rower pickup because he backdropped D'Lo through the windshield, I believe. I think.
No
I think.
doubt.
I think.
Oh,
I think
no, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
But he did do the monster truck. But I think he did that with Rock. I think
That's right. That's
he
right.
he destroyed his car in the parking lot with the monster truck.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. His
Yeah.
Cadillac, I think.
Okay, and then I'm trying to think. Because I know I also stole your Zamboni one as far as us listing them. I messed that up.
No, I remember what one you were going with.
I just got excited about it. I was gonna bring up, well, one of my picks was Tyson and Austin's, like one of my all-time favorites. I was a huge fan of both growing up. Probably shouldn't have been as like an elementary school kid, but
yeah,
real great influences. I was basically flipping the bird and throwing uppercuts in like fourth grade. I'm kidding. No, I really wasn't. I was a really respectful, nice kid. But
that was last week.
I was a really nice kid. No, but Tyson and Austin, I loved. The DX angle was amazing. I was a Shawn fan at the time, even though he's a heel, and I was a kid. So, to be totally honest, I was kind of hoping at the time, watching it in hindsight, I'm like, how did I not love Stone Cold? Like, he was the perfect anti-hero babyface, but as a kid, he was like a heel to me.
I mean, that segment really was game-changing.
It really was.
WWF in the tide turning from WCW back to WWF. Bischoff talks about it to this day. He when he saw that, he went, "Damn, that was good." Like, that's serious. The visual that keeps ringing through my head, other than them shoving one another, is Vince yelling at Austin, "You ruined it! You ruined it!"
As he's getting cuffed is my favorite. He's
Yes,
getting tough.
Shane's trying to hold Vince back.
Yeah, he's like spitting at him too.
Yeah.
Stone Cold is like seething like
Yes.
honestly, it's funny because I always weirdly thought the rattlesnake nickname didn't fit Stone Cold as much as you'd think. I love the Texas rattlesnake part.
Yeah.
But he was more blunt force trauma than he was bite you out of nowhere. You know what I mean? And but that was one of the few times when he was kind of like almost spitting it. He was like seething.
Oh yeah.
As he's getting cuffed, and Vince is yelling, "You ruined it!" But Austin got the like, he's like foaming at the mouth. That was one of the most rattlesnakey things Austin did.
What about? And this was still this is one of the most wild moments that we never thought we would see. When Bischoff came in to be named as the GM.
Oh, one of my favorites in the I'm back.
Best
better than ever. Oh, it was 04, right? I believe.
Yes.
I believe that was 2004. One of the best returns. And even honestly, as a GM, I think he might be the most underrated GM in the history.
He's one of the best heel characters in wrestling.
So
like he really is. And just, I mean, the visual of him and Vince side by side, shaking hands, hugging. We never thought that would ever happen. And just, Booker T in the back, that was a genuine reaction because they told nobody that Bischoff was coming in. When Bischoff appeared on camera for the first time, that was the first anybody knew that Bischoff was coming into the company.
Absolutely. It was like,
the promo, which I think a lot of people forget how good it was right after the Ruthless Aggression promo that Vince gave. Because one of the lines that Bischoff said, he goes, when Vince was talking about Ruthless Aggression, who do you think he was talking about? I was the guy that kicked his ass for 83 weeks. No one else has ever done that. And then he talked about the watered down the invasion and like the NWO. He goes, that wasn't the real NWO. It's just like, it was these little things that like, it was so well done. And his run as a heel GM was phenomenal. And it lasted for a few years. And the entrance music, like we just talked about, was I love that. I love that entrance music. Your opinion doesn't matter is probably one of my favorite lines in that music.
Oh, and think about the things he introduced. He brought back the big gold belt for basically Evolution.
Yes. Everyone loved that.
Him and Flair segment is one of the funniest, most underrated Raw moments that you don't think about. We'll forget about HLA. That one was not so great.
Raw Roulette.
Yeah, Raw Roulette was actually not too bad. I hate it.
I mean, they're still doing it.
They're still doing it. Yeah. No. They're trying to perfect it.
And don't forget.
No, wait. 3-minute warning is what I was going to get to.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of his best introductions. Rosie was great, but that's Umaga. That's Jamal. That was his first taste of the in-ring work. And 3-minute warning was classic. It was so good.
Yeah, but remember, under his reign as GM, he introduced the Elimination Chamber.
Oh, absolutely. He invented it.
Yes.
Even though he didn't invent it.
Yeah.
But he invented it.
Yeah.
Bischoff was, Andy wrestled Stone Cold, by the way. I believe, was that at SummerSlam?
What about another great Raw moment when it was Vince, Eric, and Heyman in the ring all at the same time. The heads of the big three.
Yes.
Again, another one of those moments that's underrated.
I forgot all about that. That was on Raw.
Yes. Because it was the hype up to the ECW One Night Stand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's so many funny segments like that. Like, I'm starting to think like, I was at the Kane Lito wedding. That was, it shouldn't make a top 10 list, but it was one of those things that you just don't forget. It's so ridiculous. Matt Hardy's all fired up. This is before even the Hardy and Edge.
It was, I think so.
It is. It's absurd.
It was the first wrestling event I went to, the first Raw. was the Raw that they broke the streak, which was main evented by Austin with one arm tied behind his back facing Vince. Vince's first match. And
Ever.
Dude Love returned
The Dudester.
and took out Austin. But I remember being there for that, being a naive fan going, wait a minute, is that that's Mick Foley? Didn't he retire like last week or whatever as Mankind? And he came in as Dude Love the next week.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's so dang funny. I mean, I'm even thinking back to like early Raws, like Shawn Michaels losing his smile, stuff like that. Like, oh
yeah.
man, what a wild moment. Like that was like early 90s. That was like 94.
What about the infamous the 1-2-3 kid? Razor Ramon.
Is that a Raw moment?
Yeah, that's a Raw moment.
That was a
Raw
moment.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, that is the 1-2-3 kid stealing it and the money bag. For that matter. That's one of the best. Yes. One of the best parts of that match is the money bag.
Speaking of 1-2-3 kid, another great moment was the night after WrestleMania 14 when he came back.
Absolutely.
As part of the relaunch of DX.
With the 6 thing too, like in the rear view. By the way, how about him having a custom NWO shirt with the 6 ball on the back?
Yeah.
He had like 2 matches in WCW, like ever. It was like total.
2.
It was more, but not that many. Like he wasn't there long.
No, and even that promo where he just buried
the cut the mustard promo.
Hogan. Yeah. And that was the same night the Outlaws, it was that it was the rebirth of DX, and that was the Hunter promo when he's like, when you're building an army, you look to your blood, and then that's when Sean came out, Sean Waltman.
Yeah.
And the rest was history with that, with all the DX segments, them impersonating the Nation, them impersonating the Corporation, which are iconic moments. Eddie Guerrero in China. A lot of those segments.
Totally.
The Mamacita stuff. Revolution debuting. Or the Radicals. The Radicals debuting.
The Radicals.
Which was, again, another unreal moment where it's 4 competitors from WCW invading Raw, sitting ringside. That would be the equivalent of, let's say, Ricky Starks, MJF, I don't know, Darby, and like Orange Cassidy all going to the front row during a Raw. Like that's the insanity that was for us at that time, because I didn't know that was happening until you saw them.
It's so interesting too, and you think back on Raw, and like to your point, think about like some of the just like complete, even like early Ruthless Aggression when they had the draft, Cena moving to Raw from SmackDown
with the title
was with bringing the title over was iconic with the long jersey and everything. And so many moments like that, even like the both DX, the fake reform, and then unsanctioned at SummerSlam segment.
Yes.
And then the real one years later with the Spirit Squad rivalry and everything like that. The amount that we've seen on Raw, Big Show's debut, I believe, was also on Raw.
No, his was at St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Who am I thinking of? That's
Jericho.
Exactly right. By the
You're thinking Jericho.
Well, Jericho. How have we not brought up the countdown?
Yes,
unbelievable.
The original countdown.
Trying to think, what do you think is the best Raw debut? We don't have to decide for sure, but I mean, that's such a good one.
Off the top of my head, it probably is Jericho. If you're talking about just debuting on Raw, I think it has to be Jericho. I mean,
because Brock's return wasn't on Raw, was it?
His original debut was on a, I think, yeah, his original debut was on a Raw.
His original debut, but his return, I'm thinking.
His return was on a Raw. It was after WrestleMania.
Yeah,
It was like the night after Mania. That's
yeah.
another great moment. You know, there have been so many moments with Raw that just, I mean, we watched the countdown with different moments, and it's just, I mean, there have been some bad moments. The Katie Vick, I think, the Katie
Ridiculous
Vick moment was, I believe, a Raw moment. Unfortunately,
they definitely haven't gotten it all right.
This one was great. When Cornette used to do the state of like wrestling, and he bury WCW with different ones. Those were great. The original ECW invasion, when they were helping them out promote the first pay-per-view.
100%.
You know, that's there.
I even like the hardcore title era.
Oh yeah,
that provided a mountain of entertainment.
Yeah. Crash Holly with that stuff was phenomenal. You know, one of the great segments, I think it's often forgotten, during Flair's retirement run with the company, and he cut the promo holding the NWA title on Raw.
Yes.
And Shawn saying he was going to put him down like Old Yeller or something.
By the way, I love the Old Yeller line too, but speaking of titles, how about the amount that have been thrown in bodies of water on Raw? Like that.
They've lost them too.
I know.
I don't think they ever found one of the Intercontinental titles.
None of them made it to shore. It's like,
yes. Yeah. What about, I mean, it's controversial, but when Austin invaded Pillman's house, Pillman's got a
goodness.
gun.
You want to talk about
which got them in so much trouble.
Pillman's got a gun.
Pillman's got it. And then I think it was Raw. Wasn't it Raw where Hunter invaded Orton's house and threw him through the window? Like, segments like that, I miss. I miss them doing those segments.
How about the DX words they can and can't say segment on USA Network?
The State of the Union one, yeah.
The State of the Union.
Which they literally took the cease and desist letter that USA Network sent them and threw it back in their face. And instead of getting in trouble, USA Network went, "We love this." Like, it's just...
They were like, okay, actually, we do have a sense of humor. That was really funny. You got to give them credit there, I think, actually. the USA guys.
One we've completely forgotten about. Shawn and Brett burying the hatchet.
Oh, yes, that's a great segment. It's a great segment.
I mean, again, another moment that we never thought would happen.
Never thought it could happen. Okay, one more, too, that, I mean, we do have to bring up the pipe bomb. I'm a huge fan. I loved it. I don't know. What were you
talking about? It is iconic. I mean,
how do you feel now?
I mean, you know, I always liked it. I do find it interesting because I think Cody Rhodes talked about this during a shoot interview that, you know, it was scripted, despite the fact that, you know, said he wasn't. And a lot of the shots that Punk took at Triple H and the family were suggested by Hunter. Like, which is something that I'm sure he probably didn't want out there, that, you know, that he was involved with it. But, you know, it is an iconic moment. It is kind of funny watching it now when Punk's saying hello to Colt Cabana, knowing what we know now,
right?
with their issues with one another,
right?
But you know, it's definitely one of those iconic moments,
for sure,
in wrestling history. Oh, Rock Hogan, the confrontation that led to the WrestleMania match.
It's amazing. Yeah, that talk about a great spot, and that pop for the Rock's music.
Yes.
That is a very underrated one to mention. I didn't even think about that. And so, okay, we've covered a bunch of Raw moments.
Yep.
Let's move on to our final subject.
Yes.
Which is Impact. It's been on fire. We've got Impact tonight. Mm-hmm. We've got Mickie James' new Knockouts champion.
Yes. And this is one of those ones that you and I were talking about, and it was so incredibly well done because they built that match up from hard to kill. We all expected, okay, this is Mickey's, this is her Ric Flair moment. This is the end of the road for her. They hyped it out. It's her 200th Impact match. Her career was on the line. They put together one of the best women's matches I've ever seen. Probably will go down this year as probably one of the best women's matches of the year. At least it's the front runner, in my opinion, as far as women's matches. It's the front runner for me. Is the best women's match so far. And Mickey winning it, which was such an awesome moment. She's now an 11-time women's champion in wrestling. And I think they're opening Impact tonight with her. If I'm not mistaken. I just think it was such a well done situation. Jordan Grace, hell of a run as women's champion. She's going to get the belt again at some point. But it was just so well done. It didn't feel like, Mickey should have put Jordan over. It didn't feel like that. It was so well done. And even the littlest thing, like having her family in the crowd, which you're like, oh, okay, then she's definitely losing. The family's at the crowd. They brought Raven in because Raven has history with her. Victoria
was a huge spot there.
Huge.
So cool to see Victoria.
So
She's
like
one of the most underrated women I think in wrestling
underrated
of all time.
And totally deserves a Hall of Fame induction.
Oh,
so does Nikki.
Yeah, it's silly she's not in the Hall of Fame. That's a joke.
But I thought it was so well done. And I told you beforehand, I know you don't watch Impact as much as I do. And I said, listen, this card's going to be really good. And you watched the show and you told me you thought it was a really good show.
Freaking outstanding.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like beating a dead horse here, but like Impact's really definitely worth a shot if you haven't checked it out in a while. It's some of the best stuff that's going on right now in wrestling.
I think it's funny, and to me, Mickey James has always been a legend, and I've always really, really, really been a fan of her, but I don't know that I always appreciated her to this extent. And it's so funny how this can happen. Right at the end, she puts on a match like that with Jordan Grace, and I'm like, wait a minute. She's got to have another 3 years left, like 5 years left. Like, it was so good.
What?
That's not even a knock on the rest of her resume, her earlier matches in her career, or she's already a Hall of Famer. But that match was outstanding. It was so, so, so good.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, Mickey is one of those ones that, like, she doesn't age. Like, she looks as good now as she did back then. Like, when we first saw her, feuding with Trish. And that's really unbelievable. Because when you look at it, like, all her peers that she was wrestling with during that Attitude Era when she was in, they're all retired. And she's still going.
Absolutely. No, and not only going, but like at the highest level.
Absolutely.
It was as high quality of a performance as you could possibly ask for. And Jordan Grace as well. And she'll be right back. And I don't know how. No. We will see a lot of Jordan Grace.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing. Like, Impact has a way where, they've gone through so much people in their roster, and somehow they're able to build stars like out of nobodies. Like, they're able to build. They've always been able to rebuild their divisions, which AEW, WWE, they don't have that easy of a time building people up. Impact somehow is able to do it, which is really a testament to them that they're able to find these diamonds in the rough and like make them into like stars. As far as Jordan's another one. They built Jordan up. They brought up Tasha Steele. Mickey's doing well, and Mickey's going to put people over. Dion is another one that they built. I mean, there's a lot of they've done well with a lot of that stuff. They really have.
Definitely. And as far as building stars and storytelling, I think Impact is often overlooked, but definitely underappreciated.
Yes.
And that would be what I got to say about that. And this has been an awesome show today, always,
Yep.
Anthony. You and I on Throwback Thursday. It's going to be fun. We'll
Yep.
see you guys next Thursday, probably at the same time, but we'll let you know on that. I know tomorrow's daily broadcast is classic 8 o'clock in the UK, which I believe is then 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific, 9 a.m. Hawaiian. And you guys all have a good one. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Thanks a lot from Republic Ramble. Absolutely. See you soon. Kobe cut the show off. Okay, well, we're still on air. So,
Yes.
hey, Kobe, you mind cutting the show? I thought I really nailed that finish.
Awkward.
Kobe, come on. Come on, dude. You got this. Actually, maybe if we both. Wow. Where'd he go? Is he in class?
Anyway.
Let's just both leave the studio. Ready? 1, 2, 3, click leave studio.